Hello students, in the last video we saw some transactions where we discussed which account to be debited and credited. We saw for capital, drawing, then we saw transaction for purchase of asset, purchase of goods, then which account to be debited, credited for returning of goods, for the payment, for the receipt, okay? And now continuing, so if you have not seen that video, just go through that video where I have discussed these transactions number 1 to 32. Now I am continuing with the same transactions and account to be debited and credited. Now 33, it is given a debtor Chimu paid us in cash. Okay, see, when we are paying to someone, in the last video I told you, when paid to a creditor Hitesh by check, when we are paying to Hitesh, Hitesh account is debited and bank account is credited. Now when we are receiving cash, what is given? A debtor Chimu paid us. So we are receiving cash. So what comes into the business? Cash. Whenever cash comes into the business or anything comes into the business, give debit to that account. So cash account is debited. And who is giver? Chimu is giver. So Chimu's account is credited. So what is given? A debtor Chimu paid us in cash. Debtor means a customer to whom you sold goods before on credit and now the amount is receivable from them. So now that debtor is paying to business, and when you are paying to someone, that person's account is debited. Here Hitesh account is debited, bank account is credited. But when you are receiving, so cash account is debited and here Chimu's account is credited. Now goods purchase from Masawe. Goods purchase from Masawe. As I told you before, whenever there is a goods are purchased, give debit to purchases. Whenever assets are purchased, give debit to that asset account. So purchases account debit and Masawe's account is credited. Now goods returned by us to Masawe. So when we are returning goods, so we have to give debit to that person to whom we are returning. So Masawe's account is debited and purchase return account is credited, or you can write down return outward. See student, always purchases account comes on debit side, and when we are returning that goods, so purchase return account comes on credit side. See, in the previous video I discussed that like sales comes always on credit side, sales return comes on debit side, and for purchases, purchase comes on debit side, purchase return on credit side. Now paid electricity in cash. Whatever expenses, when we make any expenses, that is nominal account rule says debit the expenses. So whether we paid electricity, whether we paid rent, paid salary, so we have to give debit to that particular expenses account. So for electricity, paid electricity in cash, so one account is which is debited is electricity account, and what we paid for electricity? Cash. So what goes out? Cash. So the account to be credited is cash account. Now paid rent by cash, again that expenses account you have to debit, that rent account is debit, and what goes out of the business? Cash. So cash account is credited. Paid salary by check, here what is given? Check is given. So same expenses account you have to debit, salary account is debited, but here we have not given cash, we have given check. So instead of cash you have to credit bank account. Paid salary by cash, when we are paying by cash, so we have to give credit to cash. Now here some income is there, received cash for rent. See, nominal account rule says debit the expenses, credit the income and gain. Okay. Now here you received cash. For what you receive? For rent. So rent account will be credited. Nominal account rule, credit the gain. Or simply apply the rule, what comes into the business? Cash comes into the business. So whenever cash comes into business, you have to give debit to cash. Commission received in cash, so again cash account is debited. For what it is coming? For commission. So, and commission account is credited. See the difference you can see here. For expenses, we are debiting all that expenses, okay? Electricity, rent, salary, and whatever is going out, we are giving credit. For income, you have to write down that credit side, okay? Rent account and commission account to be credited, and what comes into the business, that account you have to debit it. Now, bought packing material for cash. What we purchase? We purchase, business purchase packing material. Don't write here purchases, okay? This is not goods. So, packing material account debited. For cash it is, so cash account is credited. Now, paid wages by check, again expenses. So, which account will be debited? Wages account will be debited. And what goes out of the business? Check, that is bank. So, bank account is credited. Now, what is given? Paid commission by check. So, commission account is debited and bank account is credited. Drawn cash for private use from the bank. From the bank. Now, it is private use. Just we discussed in our previous video, that is, it is for personal use. So, drawing account will be debited, and it is not in the cash form, it is from the bank. So, bank account will be credited. And now the last page which I have to discuss with you. Withdrawn cash from the bank for office use. Now, it is not personal or private use, it is for office use. So, withdrawn cash, when business withdraw cash from the bank, what comes into the business? Cash comes into the business. So, asset of the cash increases and bank decreases. Bank balance reduces. So, bank account will be credited. Opposite of this, when we deposit cash into the bank, balance of the bank increases. So, bank account is debited and cash is reduced. Cash is going out. So, cash account is credited. Now, received for commission. This is entry for income. Commission being nominal account, credit the income and gain. What comes into the business? Cash comes into the business. So, cash account is debited. For what cash comes into the business? For commission. So, commission account is credited. Paid daughter's school's fees. So, daughter's school fees means it is for personal, private use. Business money is used for private use. So, drawing account is debited. And from business, what goes out? Cash. So, cash account is credited. Paid stationery bill. So, it is a kind of expenses. So, stationery account is debited. And what goes out of the business? Cash. So, cash account is credited. Interest received from debit. See, this is income. What we got? We got cash. For what purpose we got cash? For interest. See, remember here the name of the person is given for confusing you. Never give credit to person. Okay here. So, interest received from debit. So, cash account is debited and interest account is credited. Paid rent to landlord. Paid rent means one thing is clear, cash account will be credited. Cash is going out. What purpose cash is going out? For rent. So, rent account will be debited. Don't give debit to landlord. Received rent from tenant. So, what comes into the business? Cash comes into the business. Why it is coming? Rent. So, rent account is credited. Paid wages. So, cash goes out of the business. So, cash account will be credited. Why cash is going out? For wages. So, wages account is debited. Nominal account rule, debit the expenses, credit the income. Return goods to Ayan. Who is receiver of the goods? Ayan. So, Ayan account is debited. First we purchase goods from Ayan. At that time purchase account is debited. Now when we are returning, so purchase return account is credited. See this transaction we discussed before also. And the last, cash purchases amount paid by check. So whether it is cash purchases or credit purchases, I told you which account is debited. Purchase account is debited. When cash is going, you have to give credit to cash. If you are paying by check, give credit to bank account. So students, here through 4 videos I discussed with you number of transactions. So just go through all this transaction, these 2 videos, number 1 to 9, then 19 till 32 till 45 and 56. So total 56 transactions I have discussed with you. Hope it will help you. This will definitely help you to post the entries in the ledger account as well as to pass journal entries. Thank you very much students. Bye.